everybody, it's Friday. Made it through another week and welcome back to True Crime and Felines. My name's Brandy and every Friday I sit down with one of 14 of my felines or more and we discuss a true case or mystery. So today's case is a very interesting one that happened in the 80s in Skidmore, Missouri. Has anybody heard of Ken McElroy? Well, he was shot in broad daylight in front of 60 witnesses, and to this day, his murder is unsolved. So let's get started. So Ken McElroy was from a very large family. He was actually the 15th of 16 children in his family. Now they all grew up in Skidmore, Missouri, which is a pretty small town, and there were so many children in his family that the parents just kind of let him run the town and get in any mischief there could get into. Ken wasn't very good at school and he was actually dyslexic. So he ended up dropping out in 8th grade. Well, around this time, he had an accident where he fell off of a hay wagon and hit his head. It was bad enough that it said that he had to get steel plates in his head. So they think that's what started his aggression. So at age 13, the cops already knew Ken's name around town and his petty crimes. Now, as he got older, unfortunately, his crimes got more elaborate. He started stealing cattle, farm chemicals, grain from his neighbors' stores, wherever he could find it. And then later, he started getting charged with assault, rape, and child molestation. Now, this is about the time also that Ken got the bully name around town. He would incite fear with all the locals and intimidate everyone. His favorite methods of intimidation was issuing threats, staring at locals, and shoving a shotgun in their faces. He would also follow them home and sit outside and just stare them down, and just the pleasant uneasiness of everything, he would end up getting away with most of his crimes. One time there was a marshal that was patrolling Skidmore and Ken didn't like him, so Ken pulled a gun on him and told him to get out of town. When the marshal would radio in for backup or help, nobody would come and everybody ignored him. So the marshal actually turned in his badge and skedaddled out of town. So Ken caused a lot of trouble in this town. He thought he ran the town, and he pretty much did. Now, due to Ken's crimes and theft and all that, he actually became pretty well off and had some money in his pocket. He never would pay taxes or anything and dealt with cash all the time. Now, because he had all this money, he could afford a great attorney that would actually get him off of most crimes he was charged for. He had been indicted 21 times and escaped every conviction on those crimes. He either was acquitted or the charges were dropped. Now, one of the major one of these is attempted murder. There was a man named Romaine Henry, and he caught Ken on his land and tried to run him off. Instead of Ken just leaving, he pulled a shotgun on Romaine and shot him in the stomach. Now, Romaine would survive this and press charges against Ken. I mean, who wouldn't, right? Now, the attorney, as well as Ken spinning some lies, would work their magic, and Ken was acquitted of this. He stated that he was with these other hunters who then, of course, backed the story up, and so there is no way he could have shot Romaine, and he don't know what happened to Romaine. There was also speculation that Ken intimidated the jury members, which helped him get acquitted of this as well. Ken was used to getting everything he wanted, including women, and it didn't matter their age. Ken would be married 3 times over the course of his life. We think some of the marriage might have not been legit, and he would end up having 10 kids. So his first wife, Sharon, was only 15 when they first met, and Ken would have been 20 years old at the time. Now, of course, there was domestic violence in these marriages because of the way Ken was, and he regularly beat Sharon. So they were together for a number of years, and about 7 years went by, and Ken found a girlfriend, and her name was Sally. She was 13 at the time they met, and Ken would have been 27. Now, Ken would just move Sally, his girlfriend, into their home with Sharon, his wife, and the kids that they had. And they would live out this weird 3-way marriage for a while. Ken would end up having 3 kids with Sally and 3 kids with Sharon. After that, Ken got tired of both Sally and Sharon. So he found another gal named Alice, and Alice would be considered his second wife. Now, Ken would end up actually moving out of the family home and leaving Sally and Sharon and the kids in the house, and he would move in with Alice. Now, Alice was younger too. I don't think she was a teenager. She might have been, but he would have been in his 30s at this time. Now, Ken abused Alice physically and verbally, and when she gave birth to their son, she moved out of the house and actually moved in with her mother and her stepfather in another town in St. Joseph, Missouri. McElroy became very enraged that Alice would leave him and take their son, so he drove to St. Joseph. He arrived at the house and he told them that he was taking Alice and his son, and if anybody tried to stop him, he would kill them. Alice's stepfather, who of course was trying to protect his stepdaughter, told Ken to get the hell out of there, and he wasn't taking Alice or the son. Ken would end up going to his truck, grabbing a gun, and shooting Alice's stepfather in the leg. Ken would be arrested for assault charges, but Alice's stepfather would need to testify in court. In order to stop that from happening, Ken carried on his usual scare tactics with Alice and her family. He told him that he would kill his entire family if he testified, and he would follow him when he went to the store, and he would sit outside the house for hours just staring in the living room window. Eventually, there was an altercation at a bar where Ken threatened Alice's stepfather, and he ended up dropping the assault charges just so Ken would get the hell away from them. Now, for whatever reason, Alice would move back in with Ken with her son after a while. And to welcome her back, what did Ken do? He found another girlfriend. Her name was Trina, and she was 12 years old. At this time, Ken would be around 35. Now, he would move Trina into the house with him, Alice, and the kids, and around 14 years old, Trina would become pregnant with their child. Now, after the child was born, both Trina and Alice, tired of being scared by Ken's all the time, would actually leave the home, and they went to Trina's parents' house to get away from him. Again, Ken, enraged that his wives would leave him with their children, he went to Trina's parents' house. He would end up shooting the family dog, beating both Trina and Alice viciously, shoving them and the children in the truck, and then setting Trina's parents' house on fire. Now, no charges were pressed against Ken for setting the house on fire or shooting the dog for obvious reasons, but Trina was pretty beat up and she ended up having to see a doctor. Since she was only probably 15 at the time and still a minor, The doctor actually called child services, so Ken was charged with rape and child molestation, as well as physical assault. Now, his big fancy lawyer was able to delay the trial a little bit long enough where Ken would marry Trina, because if they were husband and wife, the state could not force Trina to testify against her husband. So Trina would be the third and final wife of Ken. And of course, the tactic worked. Trina refused to testify against her husband, and all the charges were dropped. Now, as you can see, Ken never was punished for his crimes, and the town was getting sick and tired of it. Now, what came to head was when Ken's two daughters were in at the local general store in Skidmore. The younger daughter attempted to steal some candy and was caught by the clerk. And the clerk told the girl, "You better put that back." She dropped the candy and both girls just left. Apparently they went home and told their parents what had happened. So shortly thereafter, Ken and Trina showed up at the store, and Ken, of course, had a gun. They started yelling at the clerk for accusing their daughter of stealing. Now, all of this yelling and ruckus had actually brought the store owners, Bo and Lois Bowenkamp, out from the back of the store to see what was going on. Ken, of course, started intimidating them and started accusing them that his daughter was not a thief and they were just out to hurt his family. Lois Bowenkamp would actually end up kicking Ken out of the store and telling him to skedaddle, get the hell out. Now, this, of course, really pissed off Ken, and the Bowenkamps became his object of intimidations. He would sit outside their house in his truck for hours in the evening, just having his gun hang out the door of the truck. A couple times he got out of the truck and he would fire his gun in the air, and all of this over a couple pieces of candy. Now, the Bowenkamps, who were actually in the early 70s at the time, tried their best just to carry on and try to ignore him. Ken was already worked up and there was nothing that was going to calm him down. So one day he actually drove to the corner store and waited in a side alley for Bo to come out the side door to take garbage out or whatever he was doing. And he would end up shooting him in the neck. Now, Bo survived, and Ken was again arrested for attempted murder, but his lawyer would end up getting him out on bail while they waited for the trial. So along with Bo, Ken would start harassing the sheriff, Richard Stratton, who actually arrested him for shooting Bo in the neck. And it wasn't only Richard, it was Richard's wife as well. He once caught Richard's wife outside in her car and pointed a gun at her and threatened her. And then he would sit outside of Richard's house just like he did with everyone else. So when the trial finally came, it was like the first time that it looked like Ken was actually going to get punished for his crime. He ended up being convicted of second-degree assault, and he was to serve 2 years in jail. However, Ken and his attorney filed an appeal, stating that the shooting was in self-defense because Bo at the time was holding a paring knife. So Ken was actually let out on $40,000 bond while his appeal was pending. So again, he's out walking around free. Immediately upon his release, Ken goes to the local bar called the D&G Tavern. These were owned by local brothers, Del and Greg. Now, it was the only bar in town, so it was frequented by Ken a lot. Ken would chase off customers, and they really didn't want him in there, but they really couldn't stop him from going in there because of Ken's tactics. So he went to the bar, and he was holding his rifle, waving it in the air, and he was proclaiming to everyone in the bar that he was going to go finish off Bowenkamp. Because several patrons of the bar witnessed this, they did call the police. The prosecutor was notified and they had revoked Ken's bond, so he went back to jail. Another hearing was scheduled, which all the witnesses would testify that they had seen Ken in the bar waving the rifle, saying he was going to finish off Bo. And then, of course, he would probably get more time on top of the 2-year sentence. That's what the patrons or the actual town was hoping for anyway. Well, on July 9th, 1981, this would have been a day before Ken's death, the attorney got the hearing delayed for 2 weeks. This was what they did. They, kept delaying things. And once again, Ken was let out on bail. Even after saying he was going to finish this Bo off, they let him out on bail once again. So he's walking around a free man once again. Now, the next morning, it was July 10th, 1981. There were people that gathered at the American Legion Hall there in town, which is actually right across the street from the D&G Tavern. It allegedly involved the town mayor and the county sheriff, along with a lot of the locals. They say that the purpose of the meeting was how to keep the witnesses safe from Ken to make it 2 weeks to do this hearing and then finally put Ken away for good. Now, others would say that the town gathered together to talk about how to get rid of Ken for good. Now, during the meeting, somebody had noticed that Ken and his wife Trina had pulled up in their truck and they were going inside the D&G Tavern for a drink. The whole mob came out of the American Legion Hall to confront Ken and do whatever they decided to do. Now, depending on which papers you read, there are anywhere from 30 to 60 people standing in the road at this point, surrounding the truck and in the D&G Tavern when this mob confronts Ken and his wife Trina. Trina would have been about 23 at the time, and McElroy would have been 47. Now, there was some shouting going on saying that Ken's days were numbered and stuff, and it kind of got a little hostile. So Trina convinced Ken that they needed to leave. So they got in his truck. Now, before he pulled away, he stopped long enough to light a cigarette. Now, just as he was taking a drag, 2 gunshots rang out. The truck's windows were shattered, and at least 1 bullet hit McElroy in the back of the head. Blood would spatter inside of the vehicle everywhere, and McElroy would slump over dead. Trina, of course, freaked out. She got out of the truck, or she was pulled out by some witnesses, and she ended up just kind of running away from the scene. She herself was not physically injured. The thing to take away here is even though people knew he was dead, nobody would call an ambulance. Ken would obviously die at the scene, and he was surrounded by anywhere from 30 to 60 witnesses. Now, investigators would come out after the fact and start investigating this incident, and they did determine that Ken was murdered. They could not get any of the witnesses to say anything. They all said they did not see a thing, or they saw up until this point, they did not see a shooter. They have no idea who did it. Nobody would talk. And then, of course, the townspeople weren't happy the investigators were there. They felt that the justice system had let them down for so long concerning Ken, that why were they there so diligently trying to solve Ken's murder when all this stuff had happened before and they didn't seem to care that Ken did it. So investigators were very frustrated that this entire town was keeping this huge secret of who made the fatal shot. Now, Trina would come forward and she would say, "I know who did it. I saw it. I witnessed it."
Positive it was Del Clements who shot your
Yes,
husband.
I seen him shoot it.
Sure, I believe her. No reason not to.
People's afraid to say what they see. because they're afraid what's going to happen to them and their family.
Trina's a liar. Let's make it plain.
She said she believed that a guy named Del Clement, and he was the part of the co-owner of the D&G Tavern, that he was standing across the street with a rifle, but nobody would corroborate Trina's story. Del Clement would never confess and always denied he had anything to do with it, even on his deathbed. Now, at the scene, there was 2 bullet casings that were found to be from 2 different guns. In the end, Ken was actually shot twice, once in his shoulder and once in the back of the head is what actually killed him, but they were from 2 different guns from 2 different angles. One was stationed directly behind the pickup, and the second took up position about a half of a block in front of the pickup. Now, there were names being thrown about, but these 2 or 3 individuals were actually never prosecuted. Del Clement's name was really the only one that came up, but he was never charged for anything. Now, shortly thereafter, somebody actually went and burnt the McElroy house to the ground as well. It was kind of a final FU to Ken. So Trina would end up filing a lawsuit for about $5 million where she's accusing the county sheriff and apparently the whole town, of conspiracy, which probably not wrong. Now, however, the suit would be settled just for a mere $17,000, and there would be no information leading to who actually killed Ken. Trina would just take the money and move away, and that's the last the town saw of her. Now, Ken's longtime attorney, who was helping Trina with the lawsuit, would end up saying, "I know why they didn't talk," meaning the town, that they were glad he was dead and that the whole town got away with murder. Ken's murder is still unsolved today, and still nobody is talking. Now, there's been a movie made about this starring Brian Dennehy, and there is a book written about it as well. There is a great documentary out there by Sundance, which is No One Saw a Thing, and I will link to that into the comments down below. It is a great documentary as it talks to some of Ken's children and the town residents. Now, the funny part is that there are residents that know who did it. They know who did it, but they are still not talking to this day. And a lot of the residents think because the town got away with murder, that the town is now cursed, because after Ken's death, the whole town just kind of went to crap. Everything closed down. There's really nothing there anymore. People are moving away. And there's been crime. Like, they have per capita, they have higher crime in that area than other areas. And one of the crimes were actually where a pregnant lady got her stomach cut open and her baby stolen. So they think the town is now cursed. So what do you think? Do you think this is justified homicide done by vigilante justice and that he deserved to die? Or should they just let him go and dealt with him or moved away? So I would love to hear what you think in the comments. I encourage you to check out the documentary, and we will see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.